So, and hey, hope you guys are aloha. Hope you're doing well. I took a chance to run upstairs and look at the game, and when I came down, it was 2-1 for Belgium. So hopefully the second half will U.S. will step into the game. But all good, man. I hope you all had a great fourth. Real cool time in history to be a part of things, and so excited to have you all here. I know there's several that are jumping on. They've hit me on emails and or in text and stuff. They'll be on just here late, but I'm going to make this one a little bit kind of bring it up a little bit about the games that are going on. But wanted to start that all off with this question. Okay, and by a show of hands, and I'm sure everybody will raise their hand. How many of you have ever watched a championship game? Right? Football, basketball, baseball, Olympics, any of that kind of stuff, right? So, and of course, like I said, right now we got the amazing World Cup going on. You know what I like about the World Cup is that all the world is together for one purpose, and that's watching a game. Right? There's no issues, no political BS, none of that kind of stuff that's going on. All the different things that are playing in that. I thought it was cool. There was one from, I want to say Congo that was in the middle of Colombia area, and he was singing at the top of his lungs their national anthem, and everybody was smiling when it was over with. The Colombians were all happy and so forth, and that's the way really it should be. Um, the thing that I look at it though is right? Um, millions of people get together, right, to watch others compete for a trophy. And, we all get together, we celebrate the winning goal, the winning shot, the championship moment, all of those things that play in. But what I want to bring up is that championships are never won on game day. Okay. Game day simply reveals who we are. It reveals who already won, right? The statement isn't just not it's in business, it's in everything. So when you look at your marriage, health, finances, leadership, every area, the whole thing that happens is people from the outside see the trophy, right? They see the celebration, the confetti, the interviews after, the smiling faces, the frowning faces, the upset. But yet, nobody takes the time or even sees what actually produces that, right? Nobody sees the early mornings. Nobody sees the extra repetitions, the discipline, the nutrition discipline, yeah, I don't feel like training, but I got to go. Right? You got to get this. Just I remember years ago reading a story of, oh man, I forgot, one of the famous golfers. Um, and somebody had mentioned to him, man, I'd give anything to play like you do. And he'd had a very bad day. And he spun immediately, said, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't put in the countless swings, the rubbing raw of the inside of the hands, to go to the clubhouse and put on band-aids or wrap them to go out and hit another 1,000 balls, and the countless all that stuff that goes on. The the they they don't see, right? It's always the overnight success everybody talks about, and yet it's the invisible stuff. It's the the stuff that we even struggle with on the quiet moments, right? Oh man, they have an amazing relationship. And yet overall, I look at my wife and I over the 29 years we've been together, and people go, man, I just love to have that relationship. Well, we go this way. We believe that this relationship is not 50-50. It's 100-100. Does that mean we like each other all the time? No. That's just the way it is. We're two different human beings. But it's those quiet times together that, hey, now we're over the last 5 years or so, it's been, hey, I'm sorry. What did I say that upset you? Right. Immediately when something happens, we can feel it's like, okay, what did I say? Did I upset you? What did I do? Right. Versus letting it linger for hours or days, letting it fester. Like, stop, tell me. Okay, got it. And then you learn from that, right? That's the quiet stuff. That's the quiet stuff that all of a sudden, my wife has this great thing that I've learned over all the years is when people come up and say, I am so proud of you, right? So I was sharing with you guys a couple of weeks ago or so forth, right? That she's dropped 102 pounds. And people come up, man, I am so proud of you. And that kind of rubs her wrong because you don't know me. How can you be proud of me? Right? It's an interesting concept we have in our English language. Now, proud of what you've accomplished, that's a different term or a different statement. Man, I'm so proud of what you have accomplished. Yeah, you weren't there during the quiet times. You weren't there during the struggle of, do I eat this chocolate bar? Do I not eat this ice cream? Do I walk away from this? Do I, right? No one was there but her, right? On the other side, if you're weightlifting, on the other side of, hey, I got to get off the alcohol. Hey, I've got to stop smoking. Hey, I've got to, nobody. You can be proud of the accomplishment, but you can't walk up to somebody and say, I'm so proud of you. You don't know me. You don't know those quiet times. But it's all of that that creates the results. It's all of those things that the thousands and thousands, and in my world, millions of internal conversations, right? Mark knows I always say this when we're out together. If I can just make sure that the voices in my head fly in formation, I'm doing okay. It's when they're scattered that I have the issue, right? Because I'm always in conversation. And I laugh. My daughters go, Dad, you always talk to yourself. Yeah, because, and this is where I have fun, right? Because I'm the most intelligent person I want to have a conversation with. And they laugh. Okay, Dad, whatever, right? On and on. But I'm always working something out. And it's those internal conversations that allow me to work through and then accomplish. And people's like, oh my gosh, um, how did you get to where you are? What have you? Because I talk to myself, because I go through. It's not, the championship isn't won on that day. The championship is won during those quiet times. It's those quiet times that you get up in the morning before somebody does. That's a quiet time. You stay up a little bit longer just to do one more thing on your business. Hey, I got this deadline I've got to meet, right? It's this deadline, and that means I remember I had a deadline. I was writing a training manual for commercial real estate, and I kept pushing it off, and this is for another company, and they said, "Hey, we need this manual." And so I'm so good at writing manuals. I waited till 2 days before the deadline, right? I didn't, yeah. So here I am, man. I tell you what, I had brewed 2 pots of coffee that night. I'm sitting in my office. I'm writing like a madman, putting together all of those things come together. It was a beautiful manual, still, all that kind of stuff. But I waited, right? And in waiting, uh, it. Hang on, Mark, I think we got you, bud. Let me get you muted, bud. There we go. It's those quiet times that I had to push myself through. Now, had I spent time on it before, that's fine. You can argue that point, but it's the whole thing that it most people outside of us only see our outcomes, right? Because they don't see the sacrifice that it takes. And what I wanted to bring to up tonight is we tend to buy into that. We tend to buy into if I'm doing something, it's bringing comments from others, right? I talked about it a few weeks ago, wearing that badge of honor of oh, we've always been this way. But as I started building this operating system, what I wanted to focus on is not the outcome. I wanted to focus everything on the income or the input internal, right? Not the income, the internal. Because if you want to be happier, that's not external, right? Happiness is what you make it. Happiness is fleeting. Yesterday I had a great opportunity to take all my family to a small water park here in Utah. It was a riot. Oh my gosh. It was just everything. Watching the little 2-year-old playing and doing all that kind of stuff. And yes, we even took the little 2-week old, um, this tiny little bundle of Miracle. And her and Mama just sat in the cabana that we rented. And yet, as I looked at that, I went, that's happiness. But then that's over with. And so if you're looking at outcome and the stuff that's on the outside, that's fleeting. But what was really cool is when I left, it was all of the comments of the memories. This was really cool. Thanks, Dad, Mom, Dad. Thank you for all of that. This was great. We really ought to look at how do we put it together of doing an Orlando trip, or how do we get over to Hawaii again because we got son-in-laws that haven't been there, all that kind of stuff. And so now it's all starting to ripple into how we can continue memories. But when you look at it, if you are not looking at every decision from the inside, every response from the inside, belief, on and on and on, if you're not putting that system together, then you're going to get the same outcome. And I was trying to look for a title for tonight's call, and my daughter has a plaque on her wall. It said, "If things don't change, nothing changes." And I've always had a statement that said, "Things that don't change remain the same and or get worse," because they compound, right? They compound. So there's so many of us that set back and never pay attention to our internal running operating system. And I have found, even preparing this whole thing and getting back online and talking with everybody, and Mark and I have been working diligently on some really cool, fun stuff of being able to get it so you guys can take us in the car and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we got some really cool stuff coming down the road. But as I've been building all of this, the one thing that hit me is after 30 years of being in this industry, of the seminar industry, the one thing I noticed, and I had a great conversation with some of you know a good friend of mine. His name's Nathan Osmond, yes, from the Osmond family. Um, he has a studio, and so I was with him. You'll see that one on the podcast and YouTube here probably next week. We got to finish processing it. Um, but the comment we had, it was just him and I sitting down talking. There was no interview or anything. But the comment is after all of these years, I've seen tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people come through the seminar, so many with hope. And then they look at the price point and they walk away upset, dejected, uh, disappointed, so forth, because they're all basing it on the money. I get it. I get it. Budgets are budget, but they're looking at the outcome, the scoreboard, right? They're spending all these years trying to change the scoreboard without ever changing the player that's producing the scores, right? And so it's the same patterns over and over again. How many opportunities have we looked at that, oh man, I can't afford that opportunity, versus going, well, maybe there's a different approach to it. How do I go about it? I've been doing some really I listened to one interview, and so then it triggered another interview and so forth, right? Of Cristiano Ronaldo, okay, great soccer player on Portugal. And it was very interesting because they asked him two questions that I thought it was great. One, you've been playing in, I think this is like his third World Cup or something like that. And they asked him, what is the hardest thing about playing in the World Cup? And his his comment was interview or answering the your interviewing questions, meeting with you guys, right? He goes, you guys are the hardest things. And they're like, well, wait a minute. It's like, no, because you ask stupid questions. And it's real cool because he doesn't have a lot of filter, which I love. I love people who don't have filters. Just say it, right? And he said, no. They go, what? You don't have what? Playing's not hard stuff. He goes, no, it's my passion. I love the game of soccer or football, right? Should say it right. Okay. I love football. I love it. It's my passion. It's my desire. It's on and on and on. He goes, are there other players better than me? Of course. Well, when it's over with, I'm happy. I am satisfied. And so that I started looking at because so many people say that, hey, I'll perform when the pressure is on. No, pressure doesn't create greatness. Okay. Pressure exposes preparation. And then when pressure arrives, right, it reveals the discipline. To me, that was one of the greatest things I learned from Michael Jordan. And because he said, I never worried about whether I made the shot or not. I worried or I focused on working on my form. I worked on taking the shots, right? You guys know his history. He was cut from his high school basketball team. He had to fight to get through it, all that kind of stuff. And to me, he will always be the GOAT. There are some other amazing players out there, but I just think Jordan overall, just one of those. I had an opportunity years ago that I did a lot of personal work with Karl Malone with the Jazz, Utah Jazz, and Karl's discipline in workout while he was playing was unbelievable. At the peak of the Utah Jazz, Karl Malone had 2% body fat. 2% body fat. His dedication to what he did was unbelievable because again, what happened is when you get into the game, right, and that pressure's on for him to move forward, it revealed his discipline. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden he's in. No, right? You don't all of a sudden become confident. It just doesn't happen. Life reveals your operating system, right? Great comment of oh my gosh, I just lost his name. He'll come back to me. Um, one of the great football coaches, right? He'd always started off with Gentlemen, this is a football. We're going to practice and work on tackling, passing, blocking, right? And that's just it. It was all in that because the the thing that matters the most, I don't want you guys looking at all this stuff and going, plastic fantastic and the glamour and stuff. Please, 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 go out and do your thing. You guys know me. I love dressing up. Jennifer always laughed when we'd show up. Her and I were working in Kansas City for quite some time with some of her properties, and I always, all my watches have to match, and my shirts have to match, and my shoes, and on and on and on. Please, yeah, thank you. Please, all that kind of stuff. That's great. But here's what I want. All that stuff makes me feel good. I don't care. I don't care if you think it's flash or not. I don't care. It makes me feel good. Right. And that's where I want you guys. But what matters the most to me is the Monday morning, is the Tuesday afternoon. It's it's the decisions that you guys, it's that you show up here on a Monday night. If you take an hour out of your time and you show up, and lock, stock, and barrel, they take a couple hours out because we're always working on some stuff before. Uh, but you take that, it's those quiet moments that become that championship preparation, right? Because here's one question. Write this down. What championship are you preparing for? What championship are you preparing for? Financial, marriage, health, business, becoming a better parent? If it's that champ, so whatever it is that champion, you may have multiples, whatever it is that championship, what I want you to think about, and if you're watching any of the games, right? So even when we get into March Madness and the college basketball, there's always the brackets, and then it's the elimination, and then all the way down, right? And so now we're down to, I think, the top eight for that, and that's all playing out. Then it'll be the four, and then we'll be down to the championship. You're going to have that in your life. You're going to have those championships that you're going through those filters to get down to that main championship you're pushing for. So follow up that question with this. What are you practicing today to prepare you for that championship? It's the ordinary Tuesdays, right? It's the standards of pushing away a plate, right? I was brought up that you finish everything on your plate, right? There are so many that are less fortunate. We are blessed, so eat what you're on your plate. I'm okay with the way I brought up. Don't get me wrong on that. But I also think there's a time and a place where you go, well, okay, maybe I have a smaller serving. And then I can still play that game that's, because here's where I go, guys, with some of my internal, so I can share with you, my internal programming is, and I've gotten so much better over the last 12, 15 years. But there were certain things that I would do that became, I'll just go, I don't know if this will make sense. So I'm just going to say it, right? There's a commandment that says, honor thy father and thy mother. And so when I do something that was contrary to what I was taught, then my internal system would go, yeah, but I'm not honoring my parents. Well, that's a flawed system, because it doesn't say blindly honor, right? And so I'd look at things and go, okay, hang on a minute. I get that. I get that. Finish what's on your plate. I work hard for it. Bring that food. Okay, cool. Well, take smaller portions, and then if you're still hungry, go back for seconds, versus taking a ton on your plate and then you have to push it away, and then that gets thrown away. Just one thought, right? Instead of, hey, I really don't want to go to the gym. Okay, then do something different. Walk around the block. Maybe I've got some free weights that I do that I've had for years that are sitting just right over here on the side in my workout area. And I literally, when made the focus and the connection and the decision, I literally had to dust them off to start using them. But I've had them. It's been great. I got the weight bench. I got the what do they call it? The stationary bicycle that became a clothes horse, right? It was a great hanger. You could just put stuff on it because that bike was there. Had all that stuff, but I never made a decision. I never made a decision to go, you know what? It's that quiet time. So I had to trick myself. And here's how I've done it with now I walk on a treadmill versus the bike. But this is how I had to trick myself. I am guilty, like most everybody, I am guilty of getting caught in the real TikToks, Instagram, whatever, in the scrolling, right? I'm guilty. So I just figured out a way to scroll while I'm walking on the treadmill. So I still get my dopamine. I still get that in there, but I'm walking. Guess what it's turned into? It's no longer scrolling that, it's listening to podcasts. It's listening to things that are now elevating my thought pattern. It's listening to those things that are breaking the shackles that have enslaved me for so many years. Because the whole thing of calm intention with the operating system is to empower you, not enslave you. And everything that surrounds us in the world is built, my opinion, is built to enslave us. It is built to put us in a box, right? I'm watching my kids, and I spent more time with VPs and principals and so forth over all the years of my girls because my girls wouldn't comply with certain things. And it was never, my wife's like, yeah, you go in. You go in. Because I'm like, why are you putting them in a box? Why are you what? You're trying to teach these children to be humans, and all you want them to do is be in a box, right? So then as we got into high school, of course, I'd flex a little bit and I'd ride up on my Harley with all my leathers and my do-rags and all my ink showing. And then I'd go in and sit down and talk with the principal, right? And I'd go out and so but I've never understood that. Why? Why? Why are we putting anybody in a box? Right? I think the greatest thing was Walt Disney, and I've shared this in episodes, right? Well, Walt Disney said, never say think outside the box because you acknowledge there's a box. Just think. Just think. But what have we have to do, guys, is we have to have a good operating system that when we think, it's empowering us. Right? Because if we have the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? What is that statement? You wanting different outcomes is insanity. No, that's just absolute wasted energy. Absolute wasted energy. If I sit and do the same thing over and over and over again, wanting something different, I am just wasting life. Just absolutely wasting life. Well, if you want to waste life, go for it. I doubt that because you're here every Monday. Okay. And it's not, it just, I look at it this way and say, look, I am so done. And when you look at it, Nathan Osmond brought it up that you guys ever read stuff by Andy Andrews, like Tuesdays with Maury and The Traveler's Gift and all those amazing stuff, right? Andy Andrews says, you will change when you've had enough. And I've always looked at it, you know what? When I get so disgusted with what I'm doing, that's when the change happens. You can bitch and moan all you want, go to work and have this, on and on and on, but you still get up and go to work. So why are you bitching and moaning? You're still getting up and you're going, you're clocking in. God, I got to get up at 5 so I can drive the hour so I can go. Then don't, right? You don't, because what you got to look at is what we've done is we've confused the trophy with the actual performance. And I'm not talking the participatory trophy, right? You just show up and everybody gets a trophy. That's not what I'm referring to. But we look at the scoreboard versus looking at the performance. And one of the cool things that Cristiano Ronaldo said, he goes, you know what? I may have only scored 3 points and others have scored more than I did, but I gave it all. And that right there is what started to pull it for me in just the last few days of going, you got the scoreboard and you got the performance. And if your performance is 100% for you, 100%, then who cares about the scoreboard? If you don't like that game, then prepare different for the next game. You don't like your income, prepare different for more income. If you don't like your job, prepare for a different job. If you don't have a job, then decide which direction you're going and prepare for that. I need a promotion, prepare for it. Right? I love working for companies that are pay for performance. I hate salary, right? I want to be paid for performance. That's just my personality. Because if I can then control what I do, and if I choose not to perform this week, then my paycheck it reflects that. But I also want to be in a position that when I perform at the top level, I want to be compensated for that top level. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Whether it's selling something on Etsy, whether it's real estate, whether it's I don't care. Right? There's nothing wrong for that. So tonight, guys, I don't want you thinking about going forward this week. I don't want you thinking about scoreboards. I want you to start thinking about your practice time. Okay? Tomorrow morning before the day begins, ask yourself this question: what would a champion today or do today? What would a champion do today? Right? Not this year, not next week, not this week, all that kind of stuff. I had a great conversation. Um, and it was great. And Sherry, I'm going to share a little bit from here from your conversation. She's like, no, I got to be honest. I took the holiday off and I recharged my battery. So don't come at me. That's what I loved about it. It was just straight out. It's like, no, I took the time off. That right there was the greatest thing that a champion could have done. And the reason I say that is because, and I shared this with her, is I said, when you get burned out, you get burned out. And when you're burned out, it's not good. It's not good. Right. So tomorrow morning, what would a champion do? But here's what I want you to think about, right? Is that champion is you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go find the Matthew McConaughey where he's talking about his hero. And his hero is him. Right? Go in and listen to that. It's an acceptance speech, whatever they do in Hollywood. And he talked about it. He goes, somebody asked me, who my hero? He goes, I am. So when you're looking at it on your champion, who's your champion? You are. So what is that one thing do you do today? Then do it. The decision, the conversation, the meal, the workout, the difficult phone call, the difficult conversation, right? Lifting weight, whatever it has to be. One intentional discipline or one intentional choice. Okay? Because here's the thing you want to remember. Champions don't occasionally make champion decisions. They make champion decisions all the time so that they become ordinary decisions within an extraordinary life. That's the biggest difference. It's the biggest difference. Stop looking at it and go, oh, I've got to make a championship decision. No, you got to make an ordinary decision. But because I'm a champion, that ordinary decision becomes helps me with my extraordinary life. One of the greatest compliments, Cece, I'm gonna pull from you. One of the greatest compliments is I got a text from her just recently. She goes, "Where's your next adventure taking you?" As simple as that. It's like, yeah, yeah, this is pretty cool where I am, right? Then I started looking at that, going, okay, it's because of all of the quiet moments. And then all of a sudden, what happens is people hope to break through, right? People hope for that breakthrough moment. Um, Breakthroughs aren't accidents, guys. They're intentional. Breakthroughs are absolutely intentional. And every time you choose growth over comfort or um, whatever, that's probably the best right there. You choose growth over comfort. Now what you're doing is creating intentional habits. You're preparing for that future moment that yet is unseen. And then when that moment finally arrives, guess what they're going to say to you? Man, you are so lucky. You are so lucky. They'll say, things. I get it all the time. Oh yeah, well, you're right place at the right time. Yep, that was intentional. Now that doesn't mean it was in my time. God's universe time, whatever you call that, right? Right place, right time in that universe. But because of all of the little intentional decisions, because of all of the operating system that I've worked on and now sharing, right? It isn't teaching you how to win one game. It's because it's teaching you how to live an intentional life. And so, what I want you guys to do is ask those questions, okay? And remember this. See if I can say it right. It was the one thing I've learned from Nathan Osmond is that dude knows how to memorize things, and I guess that's all part of his world. But I can't memorize two or three words, so I always mess it up. Right? It is the scoreboard never creates the champion. The champion creates the scoreboard. So it's one thing in the morning. What would a champion do? Because that champion creates the scoreboard. And then you never play to the scoreboard. You play the game that you're in your way. You come out on the other side victorious, great. You come out on the other side not, okay, what did you learn? You're always victorious. It's either with a lesson or a win. It's all a win. Okay, so that's what you got. Next week we'll go on some more. We'll see. I'm having so much fun. Mark and I truly, guys, we've got some really cool stuff getting more and more out on YouTube. If you haven't seen those, all of these are recorded and posted on YouTube. The new podcast comes out this week that will be going, and it started with that conversation with Nathan Osmond. I've got several. Oh my gosh, I got so many people lined up from Hollywood stars to rock and roll stars. And some of you will laugh. I go into what I call my Rolodex. I don't know what they're called now into your Rolodex. That's my age, right? So I go into the history, and I'm just talking to people. And I've got a real estate broker from here in Utah. Him and I are sitting down, Devin, going in, and it's this the whole theme that I've pushed in there for the podcast is how to rebuild. No, excuse me, how to build, not rebuild. I don't want to redo anything. I want to build. I don't want to repeat anything because I don't want to repeat the ugly. So I've started removing all of that stuff out of my, this just not in vocabulary anymore. But the topic is how to build after speed bumps. And like Nathan and I, we were talking about divorce and those type of things. And um, the Hollywood star coming on, talking to him, he's 3 times cancer survivor. And he's on set right now filming a new. He's got some big stuff out there with Kate Hudson and all that kind of stuff. He's a pretty solid guy. Um, but how to build after that, right? How to go through those things. My buddy Zach Stevens on tour. He's in Sweden right now, right? How to build, build after speed bumps. So watch all of that. We again, thank you so much for being here. You guys go forward, ask you that question in the morning. What does a champion do? And then play to the scoreboard. I love you guys. I'll talk to you next week.